Hello, writers, and welcome back to Spooky Writes, your channel all about writing. I'm your host, who is secretly a ghost, Kemal Onor. Now, if this is your first time, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I talk all things writing here. I post 2 videos a week, one on Monday, one on Friday, and shorts between those. So make sure if you want to stay up to date with all things writing and all things spooky, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. With that said, let's head into it. So if you've been following this channel for a little while, if you've seen any of the other videos in this playlist, you will know that I am in fact an author with a disability. I am a neurodivergent author. And so today I'm going to be sharing with you what it's like to be an author with a disability, what it's like to be an author who is neurodivergent. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how having a disability affects my writing and how, even if you have a disability, how you are able to write too.
It's the raven's call, the werewolf's howl, the vampire's bite. You search through the woods for safety, but all you find is... Okay, rights.
So just in case you haven't seen the other videos where I talk about what happened to me, so just a brief overview. At the age of 12 years old, I suffered a massive life-changing stroke. Now this stroke, I had about a 5% chance of surviving the initial surgery. My brain was without oxygen for over 4 hours. I was told many things. I was told that I was never going to walk again. I was told I would never finish high school. I was told I would never live alone. And I have overcome all of these obstacles, and I've gone on to a master's program. I've been publishing, writing. I've been writing short stories, and this traumatic event has had a deep effect on me as an individual, as a creative writer, as an author. It has had a deep roots in me, and it affects the type of stories that I write. It affects the stories that I am in fact able to tell as well. So the reason why I'm talking about what it's like to be an author with a disability, what it's like to be a creative individual who has overcome all sorts of obstacles, who has overcome many hurdles, is that so many people out there don't enjoy reading. You might be one of these people. In fact, you might be one of those people who doesn't enjoy reading. You might be one of those people who thinks reading is a waste of time, who believes their reading speed is not fast enough, who gets bored easily. You might be one of these people, because I was one of these people, and I struggled so much with reading after my stroke because I lost the left half of my vision. So both eyes and I still don't have this vision back. I still have no left side peripheral vision. So meaning that the left half of both my eyes, it's not just being blind in one eye, but it's the left half of both eyes is completely gone. And so this was something that I struggled greatly with, coming back to high school, coming back to middle school, because I was 11 years old, and when I came back to school, I was an 8th grader, and I had to adjust. I had to figure out how to read again. And so one of the big reasons why reading was so difficult for me, and after my stroke, why I had to basically learn how to reread again, why I had to learn how to read. It wasn't so much understanding the words, it wasn't so much reading the letters, it was more so my vision made it so tiring for me to be able to do any amount of reading. And I vividly remember having to read the book Animal Farm, which is a book that a lot of schools teach. A lot of middle school classes will require you to be reading Animal Farm at some point. And this book, I vividly remember trying to read it, and I would read a line, and then I would jump into about the middle of the next line because I didn't have the full vision to see all the way to the edge of the page. And it became so tiring because I would read a line, jump down to the middle and go, wait, this doesn't make any sense. I'd go back, reread the last sentence, and just go back and forth and back and forth. And so I would be exhausted after reading a paragraph, maybe a page. It just took me so long because I was reading and I was going, this doesn't make any sense. And then I would have to go, oh, there's this whole extra side on my left side that I'm missing. I'm not seeing all the way to the edge of the page. I'm literally jumping into the next line in the middle. So in order for me to be able to keep up with the reading load during high school and during middle school, one of my accommodations was I was able to access and use audiobooks because my comprehension was still strong. The only thing that I was very much lacking was the tools, the vision to be able to read and do it in an effective manner. Again, I was recovering from a massive stroke, and I very much had to adjust, and my reading speed was abysmal. But over time, I was able to gradually adjust to my new vision. I was able to figure out coping methods to be able to see more of the page. Typically, it would be me turning my head slightly to the left so that I would be using more of the good half of my vision to be able to catch more of the page. And just through the act of practicing reading and reading more and slowly moving away from audiobooks, I was able to improve my reading speed. I was able to improve my ability to read and just becoming comfortable with my disability, with the fact that I no longer had my left side of my vision, and understanding where is that edge line, and knowing and just practicing over and over and over again the idea of I have to look a little further to the left to make sure that I am catching the edge of the next line, to make sure that I am seeing all the words that are on the page. And so the big reason why I'm sharing this story, and the big reason why this stands out to me as so pivotal in my development as an author, in my development of pursuing the career that I've chosen, in terms of being able to prove the specialists wrong in the fact that I was able to graduate from high school, and that I was able to successfully go on to a creative writing program and continue on to a master's level program. And I was able to do all this work without much assistance. Again, I did use accommodations, but I primarily used my accommodations during high school. When I got to college, when I got to the undergrad level, I no longer relied on audiobooks. I was doing all the reading myself. And when I got to my master's program, I didn't use any audiobooks. I was reading it all by myself, because the truth is, no one is born great at reading. No one is born great at anything. And it's through practice, it's through repetition that you get better slowly and slowly and slowly. So I share this story to help emphasize the idea that wherever your reading speed is, if you feel your reading speed is slow, if you feel you're just not able to get through books fast enough, if you're not able to comprehend the books that you want to read, if you're struggling with certain texts, you need to just practice reading books that you enjoy, read as much as you can, and practice. And over time, you will notice that your reading speed gets better and it will improve over time, but you have to persevere, you have to practice reading. And if this means reading picture books, if it means reading young YA middle grade novels, books that might be a level below you, but it's something that you enjoy, you have to find something that you enjoy to read. And as long as you're enjoying the reading process, you don't want it to feel like it's just reading for the sake of reading. You want to find a story that you enjoy, a story that resonates with you. So the book that I fell in love with, that sparked reading for me after my stroke, again, I lost the left half of my vision, and reading was a chore. It was very cumbersome for me to be reading anything for any sustained amount of time. I would get tired very quickly. I could only read really a page, maybe two, maybe 3 pages before I would just be mentally exhausted. But the book that I ended up falling in love with, and was the best book for me to begin my reading journey of practicing reading and falling in love with reading again, was a book by David Eddings, and that book is called The Pawn of Prophecy. I vividly remember this moment when I first read this book. The book opens with a little epilogue, maybe 6-7 pages, and I got through that epilogue and then put the book down and we ended up moving from one place to another, and I forgot about that book, but then I found it again, and I read the rest of the book, and it was just so I was so in love with this book for whatever reason. It just resonated with me. It hit all the right notes. And this is what you need to find. You need to find a book that resonates with you, a book that's going to be fun, a book that's going to be challenging, but not overly challenging, and something that you can practice your reading with. And because when you're enjoying the act of reading, you're going to want to turn those pages. You're going to want to see where the story goes. And you need to do this to help develop your reading skills, to help improve your reading. And the more books that you find, one book might lead to another book. And I later found out that this book was the first book of an entire 5-book series. And I read all those books, and this was able to, and with my new vision, I was able to practice my reading speed, and I was able to persevere despite the loss of my vision, despite coming out of a stroke, despite this added disability that I was now dealing with, that I am now living with. And I've improved my reading speed to the point where I feel that I'm able to read as to the best of my ability, and I'm not done. I continue to read more, and the more that I read, the better I get. Reading is not something that you're necessarily born good at. It's something that you have to practice, you have to improve over time. So find a book that you resonate with, and this is going to help you fall in love with reading. Because once you fall in love with reading and you continue to read, this is going to help improve your reading speed. Reading is like a muscle. If you don't use it, you will lose it. So you need to practice it, and ideally you need to be practicing it more than just a few minutes here and there. The more that you practice, the better, the quicker your reading speed will improve, the better you'll become at reading. And then the other big obstacle that I faced coming out of my stroke and wanting to write was the loss of my left side. I no longer had the use of my left arm. Now, I was never necessarily a fast typer beforehand, and very early in my writing process, when I was 12, 13 years old, I would just handwrite. I would handwrite stories. I would sit at the kitchen table, and I would just handwrite stories with a pen and paper, and I would fill notebooks with stories. I would fill notebooks with words. I would fill notebooks with ideas, and I would just write and write and write and write and write. And one of the big concerns that I had moving forward was the idea of, how do I figure out how to type with one hand? And the big solution for me that really helped me develop my ability to type with one hand, and to type with accuracy, and to type with a decent amount of speed. I'm not going to pretend that I am the fastest one-handed typer. I will say that I am able to type fast enough for myself, fast enough so that I can keep up with my ideas, so that I can keep up with the story that I am putting down onto the page. But the big thing that forced me to learn how to type and navigate a keyboard with one hand was, I was 15 years old when World of Warcraft came out. So not only did this give me a practical way of practicing typing with one hand, but it also gave me a challenge, because I needed to know how I needed to be able to type fast enough so that I could be able to communicate with other people within this game. And this was what really pushed me to be writing, to figure out how to navigate a keyboard using one hand. Again, I've always sort of looked down when I'm typing, because touch typing is more or less out of the question, but I'm still able to type as fast as I can with one hand, and it's something that I've been able to type. I typed all my papers with one hand through undergrad. I typed all my papers with one hand through my master's program. So I've never seen typing with one hand as an obstacle. I navigate my own keyboard, and I don't use a special keyboard. I use a standard USB keyboard, and I navigate the keys a little differently. In the past, people have heard me typing, because when I'm typing, I type very loudly. I hit those keys so hard, and people are typically impressed by how fast I'm able to type. But this is just something that comes with practicing. It comes from typing out 4 or 5, probably 10 plus novels. Doing all this typing, again, it's about practice, it's about repetition. Just like with reading, the more typing you do, the better you'll get at it. You need to just practice it and maybe find a fun way to practice it. For me, it was World of Warcraft came out 2005, and I was 15 years old, and I had a strong desire to want to engage with my friends who were all playing this game. So if you are struggling with a disability that's preventing you from writing, if you feel like your reading speed is not as fast as you want it to be, if you feel like you're not able to get your thoughts onto the page, you need to ask yourself what is going to help you to improve. For me, it was audiobooks when I was younger, and over time just getting more accustomed to my vision, getting more accustomed to knowing that I have to turn my head just a little bit more than I would normally think that I have to make sure that I am very much catching the edge of that page, making sure that I'm seeing the full sentence. The big question you have to ask yourself is how can you practice navigating your own disability, navigating your own challenges that are before you, and understanding them. And when you take ownership of them and you practice using them, it will help. You will be able to improve over time. You'll be able to continue to strengthen your own writing ability. And then very briefly, one of the big things that having my stroke at such a young age, how that has affected my writing, how it's affected the stories that I tell, is that I spent a very long time of my adolescence after my stroke. I spent a very long time living in and out of ICU units, of an ICU, of living out of hospital beds. So I'm very aware of what that experience was like. I can write in vivid detail of what life is like, inside of a hospital when you are young, and I can very much have scenes where my characters enter into hospitals. I can have scenes where characters get injured and they go to hospitals. I can talk about what it's like to recover from a devastating loss, and what it's like to regain one's identity, and how one navigates the world post tragic event. And so, if you haven't checked out the other videos in this playlist, they will be linked somewhere here. And as always, keep it spooky. And of course, here's your writing prompt for sticking all the way through the video. Ben and Jessica were in love, the kind of love that could only be described as blank. So set your timer and start writing. Thank you so much.